back to another great episode on KOB TV, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am your host, Ken Johnson, and we are talking about pole shift. Hey guys, the poles actually shift every so often. And I'm going to read a little bit to you so you can get a gist that this is not something that's unknown or unheard of. It's just that we don't know about it or have heard of it. Looks like I'm going to have to pull this over a bit so you can see that I got this is declassified information from the CIA. And this is 2013 0624. So you guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. It says the great floods, and Noah, Adam and Eve, Vishnu, Osiris, what do they have in common? They represent eras ages apart, and yet somehow they all join hands in the next cataclysm and walk with us. There are others who walk with us too, men of science long forgotten, those who first saw that these tumbles, these cataclysmic catastrophes, or revolutions of the Earth's shell have happened before countless times, guys. So this is no joke. This is so much evidence that it happens. J. Andre Deluc in 1779 and George's Culver, George's Cuvier in 1812 were the foremost. Dolomieu, the famous mineralogist, I'm not saying that right, joined the conscious, as did Escher and Forel, the Swiss geologists. Also J. Andre Deluc Jr. and von Busch. They all agreed that the cataclysms were caused by sudden revolutions of the surface of the Earth, guys. Now, that's pretty much sums it up right there. The surface of the Earth. Pole shifts. Let's go ahead and go down a bit so that we don't waste a lot of time. You'll be able to read this yourself, at least from this video, because I don't think I'm gonna put the link in the description, seeing that I gave you a direct references to where I got it from. Plus, everybody can't handle this information. I'm gonna go ahead and skip down maybe to and so we can speed this up. Let's start right here. Many attempts have been made to answer the charge made to geological profession by Cuvier to explain these sudden revolutions. Among others, Velikovsky tried it through his study of myths and legends. Hapgood tried it, Brown attempted, and in the process amassed a tremendous library of geological data. Now, these guys trying to, crack the flood, trying to figure out what happened. And so these names, you can actually go look up, read their books, read their information, and see that what we're talking about is really true. It says every time the cataclysmic concept has come to life, the beast has been stoned, burned at the stake, beaten to a pulp, and buried with a vengeance. But the corpse simply won't stay dead. Each time it raises the lid of its coffin and says in sepulchral tones, those are words I don't use a lot, "You will die before I." The latest of the challenges is Professor Frank C. Hiven, who, in his book, The Lost Americans, said, scroll down a bit to make sure you're in the page. This was no ordinary extinction of vague geological period which fizzled to an uncertain end. This death was catastrophic and all-inclusive. What caused the death of 40 million animals? The corpus delicti? And this mystery may be found almost anywhere. And when he says almost anywhere, he does mean almost anywhere on the world. Their bones lie bleaching in the sands of Florida and in the gravels of New Jersey. They weather out of the dry terraces of Texas and protrude from the sticky ooze of the tar pits off Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. The bodies of the victims are everywhere. We find literally thousands together, young and old, foaled with dom, calf with cow. The muck pits of Alaska are filled with evidence of universal death, a picture of quick extinction. Any argument as to the cause must apply to North America, Siberia, and Europe as well. Mammoths and bisons were torn and twisted as though by a cosmic hand in a godly rage. In many places, the Alaskan muck blanket is packed with animal bones and debris in train loads, lots. Mammoths, mastodons, bison, horses, wolves, bears, and lions. A faunal population in the middle of some cataclysmic catastrophe was suddenly frozen in a grim charade. So that lets you know about the weather patterns that they're talking about. That's about to happen right now, and it's all due to the star. And I think we'll go ahead and skip down to that. Remember, they're trying to figure out what's happening. The challenge wouldn't leave me alone. Like a hunger, it gnawed at my subconscious. I could hear the deep tones of Cuvier's challenge. Find the cause of these events, still reverberating through the sacred halls of science, ghostly unanswered. I felt Hibbins' challenge later on, prodding, answer all of the facts. I decided that this cataclysmic concept, the catastrophic end, which seemed to visit our planet time after time, needed verification or refutation once and for all. So he wants to verify, she actually wants to verify it or refute it. The first step was to gather all of the known accepted data from as many Earth science as possible. Stratigraphy, archaeology, anthropology. That's the science I didn't know. Stratigraphy, paleontology, radiology, oceanography, seismology, glaciology, and many other fields. Correlation of the data between the sciences gave the answer. Although there is enough data in each science to indicate that these cataclysms happened, there was not enough to prove the concept. But between science, correlation showed indeed that the concept was true. Not only did it verify that the events have happened, but disclosed when the last 5 cataclysms were and what positions the shell of the earth has been in for the last 35,000 years. I'll read this part and I'll skip down some. So after years of research beginning in 1949, Cuvier's challenge had an answer. Yes, indeed, the cataclysms do happen, and the last one, 6,500 years ago, was Noah's flood. Now, they're going to correlate this with a lot of other testimonials from other cultures. This is written history, guys. This is nothing that you can pretend that we're speculating about. We know that Noah's flood we believe that it's real, and we have evidence to prove that it's real. So, I'll read a little more, and then I'll skip down to show you where and like I said, you can read from this page or from this video, but I'm going to put the description in this time. It goes on to say, well, I should probably go ahead and read from where I left off so you don't get, and then you can pick up on your own. It's okay. So basically what they want to know now, all right, so they happen. What is it that happens each time? The challenge was really twofold. Find the process, what happens in a cataclysm, and the trigger, what causes a cataclysm to start. So they were investigating this stuff a long time ago, guys, and we were just now catching up to it. What a chase, and what a dramatic story of the Earth's history we uncover. Civilizations of 20,000 years ago, more advanced than our wildest imagination. Prehistoric legends from Greece, Egypt, India, and South America, which became history instead of legend. Lost continents in the Atlantic and Pacific, which became dated realities with logical reasons for their sudden disappearance. This is why everything disappeared, guys. Pole shift. Yes, Vishnu came alive, a man who lived through a cataclysm 70,000 years before our time, actually 10 cataclysms ago. Now, he is known as the Hindu god of 10 resurrections from the waters. Osiris, too, was rediscovered. He was the Jesus of his time, a man of Egypt some 15,000 years ago. Noah smiled at us from the pages of the Epic of Gilgamesh. He actually was a Sumerian named Utnapishtim, who lived 6,500 years ago. The ark he built is more than legend. These things are true, guys. They have uncovered this stuff, and we don't know anything about it, because you're just now getting the CIA files that were released more than 7 years ago, or right at 7 years ago. The process of cataclysm is known now, so they know what it is now. Look at the cross section of the Earth inside the front cover. You'll see two molten layers. That's the picture that I didn't show you that picture. I'll show you that picture. You'll see the two molten layers. The orange ones. It's not in color though. They're important. One is the thin molten layer, about 60 miles thick, which is between 60 and 120 miles down below the surface of the Earth. The thick, deep molten layer started 1,800 miles down at about the bottom of the mantle, and extending 1,300 miles deeper is the outer core. Now, both molten layers are liquid. However, the inner magnetic and electrical structure of the Earth make these layers act as if they were near solid or plastic. As long as the magnetic and electrical structure maintains its orderliness, this old Earth keeps on rotating on its axis in a normal manner. The growing ice caps, Antarctica and Greenland, are not centered on the Earth's axis, and because they rotate around the poles, they are trying to swing down to the equator. The only way they could do it would be to pull the whole 60-mile thick shell around with them. As long as the shallow molten layer stays plastic, the shell won't shift. But once every few thousand years, the magnetic and electrical orderliness inside the Earth is disrupted, and the molten layer is allowed to act like a free liquid, which it was all the time anyway. It then serves as a lubricant for the ice caps to pull the shell of the Earth around the inside. Now, they're telling you exactly what's going on. Whether they, know how it goes on, they have found proof of what is going on. It says in 1/4 to 1/2 a day, the poles move almost to the equator, and all hell lets loose. The atmosphere and oceans don't shift with the shell, they just keep on rotating west to east, and at the equator, that speed is 1,000 miles per hour. It has to be normally to make one rotation per day. That's about right, guys. If you've studied any kind of flat Earth, you know it's about 1,040 miles an hour down there. So while the shell shifts, the top shifts with the poles going toward the equator, the wind and the oceans go eastward, blowing across the face of the earth with supersonic speeds, inundating continents with water miles deep. Miles deep, guys. Not feet, not a few feet, not a few yards, miles deep. At least a couple to start with. Now, what about the trigger? Now, this is where they investigate more. They were a little confused. This turns out to be the most elusive piece of the whole puzzle. We couldn't rely on some supernatural explanation like something happening in the heavens of a vague character which actually violated the laws of nature. No, it had to be something natural, a part of nature's ordinary structure which disrupts the Earth's inner electrical and magnetic structure whenever it happens. We once thought that the sun spots could be the cause because they do disrupt the Earth's inner electrical and magnetic structure, but we were wrong. We found out that nature's power plant is a motor generator system existing in many different magnitudes. It's a basic structure of the universe. The energy structure of an atom is identical to a rotating planet, to a blue-white star, to a galaxy, to a super galaxy, to all levels of super galaxies, including our universe, and even more. As a neutron which has escaped from its parent atom's neutral zone will separate into particles, a star. Though a sunspot gives off neutral matter which explodes as it becomes energized, so a galaxy gives birth to an exploding star when a dead star escapes from its neutral zone in the center. And as a dead galaxy explodes when it escapes from the central neutral zone of its parent supergalaxy, a planet, therefore, must act the same at its energy level. Guys, we have been reading for some time. Let's go ahead and restart the music, and I have to because we're just about to get close to the end, and we're not there yet. So apparently, once every few thousand years, neutral matter escapes from the 860-mile radius inner core into the 1,300-mile thick molten outer core, and there is a literal atomic explosion inside the Earth. The explosion in the high energy layer of the outer core disrupts completely the electrical and magnetic structure in both the molten outer core and the outer 60-mile thick molten layer. Finally, the ice caps are allowed to pull the shell of the Earth around the interior, with a shallow molten layer lubricating the shift all the way. Guys, they got scientific proof this happens, and it's about to happen, so you don't have to listen to me. You can see then that ice ages are not a matter of advancing and retreating ice. It's simply that different areas of the Earth are in polar regions at different times for different durations of time, with the changes between positions taking place in a fraction of a day, guys. It happens just like that. The story around the world gives a silent testimony, and this is where we're going to stop when I get to the testimony that most reflected my knowledge. And then you can go ahead and research these bullet points that we're about to read, and you can go ahead and like, share, and subscribe if I forget to say that, because it is very interesting that they have proof, have had proof, and wrote books. Crap, it's so many books that have been rewritten or not written or taken away or thrown away that our ignorance is so pervasive that this may sound like mythology, but it's true science fact. So let's go ahead and listen to some testimonies from around the world, from cultures around the world, going all the way back, going thousands, more than 11,000 years ago, guys. One of the stories, and we'll continue. The story around the world gives a silent testimony. The Beresovka mammoth, frozen in mud with buttercups in his mouth. Now, the only way something could be frozen in mud with buttercups in their mouth, it had to happen instantly. I mean, he was standing there chewing, and all of a sudden he's covered in mud. And of course, he probably held his breath. He didn't want to chew. And then, of course, the cold wind, the supersonic winds, froze. And so this stuff happens, guys. This is proof. Go look that up if you can find. I use DuckDuckGo. I didn't use Google because we already have a problem right now. We know Google and YouTube, are doing, they're doing too much, right, guys? So we know. So type it in. Go to DuckDuckGo. Type it in, and you may be able to find it. I'll show you one I found. The only one I looked for because I knew that I had read that in the Bible once before. Remember, I'm an ex-Christian. I'm not a Christian anymore, so I'm not religious or anything. But let's go ahead and give you some more of this information so we can get out of here. This is another bullet that you can actually prove. Go look it up. The age of the gorges below Niagara Falls and St. Anthony's Falls, both about 6,500 years. The sudden end of Laurentine Basin ice cap in Canada about 11,500 years ago. The uninterrupted years of evolution on the Galapagos, over 11,000 years. So I know you've seen some History Channel, about the Galapagos Islands. They haven't been touched in over 11,000 years, and that's why, because they were here the last time the cataclysm happened, and you can draw your own conclusion. Let's keep going. The geological dating in the Murrumbidgee River Basin system in Australia showing the end of an ice cap there about 11,500 years ago. The age of fossil bones taken from the Wilshire Boulevard tar pits over 11,000 years ago. The sudden end of all work in the prehistoric city of Tiahuanaco, Peru, 9,550 years ago. BC, or 11,500 years ago. Now, don't forget, BC, 9,550 years BC is, BC is zero, or at least to zero before it comes to 2020 where it is. So we'll go 9,500, 8,500, 7,500, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,500. Then it'll go to zero. Then it goes, 1,000. This is after, or 2,000, and so on and so on. So don't get the dates confused. If you do, that's the formula to understand it, that there's a zero from BC up to now. Let's go. Leonard Woodley's great work in the Holy Land dating Noah's flood at about 6,000 years ago. These are proofs, guys. You can go look them up. The end of the Wisconsin ice cap about 29,000 years ago. The sudden 2,000 foot rise of the ocean all over the world 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. The sudden rise of the St. Lawrence River bed 6,500 years ago. The changing levels of the shoreline in the Hudson Bay. Guys, this thing has happened and they wrote it down. They got proof. The granite blocks from the Alps sitting on the eastern slopes of the Jura Mountain at 4,000 feet above sea level. No way granite's supposed to be up on Alps unless super large, massive amounts of water were able to take it there. The great legendarian Fraser's uncovering of over 8,000 separate inundated survival legends in the Malay Peninsula region. The Pejark Marsh in Australia, which shows a quick extinction of a civilization 11,500 years ago. More proof, guys. This proof is happening. They uncovered this stuff 2013 or released it. The study was done long before that, and we're just now getting in 2020 when it's about to happen. The Piri Res map showing the North Pole in the Sudan Basin. You guys know where that is. No way the North Pole should be there, right? But they have proof. Not only that, the Egyptian water clock showing agreement with the Piri Res map. So they even got proof of their testimonials. Granite on top of the mountain around Death Valley in California. No, it's not supposed to be there. The great stratification of the Grand Canyon painted desert and badlands, each layer homogeneous, showing it to be deposited there suddenly by fantastic amounts of water. We're almost about to be where my information correlated with this information. The computable age of the Antarctic green Iceland caps about 6,500 years ago. The present growth of the Antarctic ice cap about 293 cubic miles per year. Growth, guys. The legend from primitive man in Tierra del Fuego at the southern tip of the South America of the day the sun set in the wrong direction. And here is me. This is where we're going to stop at. This is where I'm going to show you proof, again, that from my memory. And the legend from primitive man in Peru of the day the sun stood still. Now, if you are a Christian, you know you know that you probably came across a story where they talked about the sun being standing still or not moving, and the moon as well. So during my search query, I got to what's this? Gotquestions.org, and the question is it true that the sun stood still? And the answer was in Joshua. Now I'll turn it around so you can get a better view, so we can always make sure that we read when we come over here. We actually have proof. We don't just look at videos and clips of moving objects. We actually come over here to read and learn. So you got that. So I'm going to read it to you. Now, the answer is in Joshua 10th chapter, verse 12 through 14. May just relate the most amazing miracle of all time, the day the sun stood still. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped. Now, it's real, recorded history, although we take a lot of the Bible as allegory, anthropomorphic. That's animals representing the story. Anthropomorphic allegory. It's actually true facts. This stuff is really real. This is when the pole shift happened, and that's what caused the flood of Noah. And we're going to go ahead and stop there, guys. I think you've got enough bullet points from this point that you can go and verify that there is going to be a pole shift, and there's pretty much nothing you can do about it. So that's about it. You're gonna perish, guys. And this is proof. And I just wanted to let you guys know, since they have been keeping it for quite some time, and then they only released it in 2013, so that's only 7 years ago. You haven't gotten it up until today. So I think that should do it, guys. I don't know what else to tell you. You don't have to believe me. You can go read these bullet points and testimonials of people and cultures long ago, and they are not telling you a lie. And of course they didn't know what was going on, or maybe they did. Maybe they knew that the poles were shifting. Also, the star Nibiru, if you want to call it that, is one reason they explained in. If I go back up, let me go back up and see if I can find that for you. I think I read that to you, because I read a lot, because the music did go off. Guys, I'll come back and read some more to you and let you know more about it. We'll do a part 2. But I just wanted to get that out, because it's pretty horrific that we didn't know that they knew long ago and have been writing books around the information, keeping the populations blinded from the truth. So this stuff is really real. There is going to be a polar shift, and there's going to be massive cold, earthquakes, water. From my last video, if you looked at that last video, polar shifts, you see the end result. The last map in the video shows you what is a projected reality from the U.S. Navy. And so, like I said, guys, it's here, it's coming. That's proof. Like I said, I've been hanging out at CIA all day, as long as I could, and I found this, and it's incredible that although I do knew about Peru and the Sumerians, that I was so ignorant that I knew about the Peru and Sumerians, and you know, the Incas, the Mayas. We can go back, but they don't give you those stories in there. They tell you about some civilization that suddenly is banned, or vanishes, and that's it. This is why, guys. This is why. So like, share, subscribe, guys. I love you. I wouldn't have told you if I didn't. There's nothing you can do. I can't save you. You have to save yourself. But hopefully I gave you enough information to get started, to get going, to save yourself, to reinforce the information that you already had. So with that said, talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Situation, aggravation, everybody allegation. In the suit, on the news, everybody dog food. Bang, bang, shot dead, everybody's gone bad. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us.